Howdy gamers! Today we're going to talk about musical modes! Okay, say you have a C major scale. It's all white keys, so no sharps or flats. Why do you think that is? I'm about to tell you. Well, the major scale is actually a fairly recent invention, being the musically functional application of the Ionian mode. Before major and minor scales, the Greeks discovered that some frequencies sounded better with others, and would build whole modes to base their songs in. At some point, a bunch of Catholic nerds codified the most resonant modes in a collection of church modes, which they would use to base their chants in. I think we should put a Mixolydian 7 flat 5 with a raised 13th here. Yes! 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 Two modes, though, that were completely left out were the Ionian and Aeolian modes, which were revived in 1547 by Henricus Galerianus. Once we figured out how to actually tune stuff, Ionian mode turns out to be very functional and sounds really good. So good that music theory entirely shifted to Ionian modes and Aeolian modes, or major and minor scales. The major scale, or Ionian scale, is built off this relationship of whole steps and half steps in our 12-tone system. A half step is 1 semitone away, while the whole step is 2 semitones away. This is a unique relationship of intervals that divides the octave in a pleasant sounding way. Now let's look at our minor scale. You can see the whole step and half step intervals are in different spots, which creates a scale that sounds a bit more somber. Two completely different scales, right? Wrong! They actually have so much in common that a C major scale is essentially an A minor scale, just starting on different notes. This is called the relative major or minor, where just changing the starting point of a major scale creates the minor scale. In fact, each starting point on the major scale produces a different mode. What? They're all related! Each mode has a unique name, being Ionian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian, and Locrian. While it's easier to show this using our relative mode method, as we can just move across the scale to find each mode, it'll make a bit more sense when we look at it using parallel modes, as in we'll compare C Ionian, which is no accidentals, with the other C modes, so that we can see exactly how the stepwise motion will affect our sound. Ionian mode, or the major scale, is a certified hood classic. It works well due to how well it works functionally in music theory. When writing using this mode, you don't have to use notes outside of this mode to create great progressions. The scale just in of itself is functional with how it feels resolved just ascending the scale, which has to do with its leading tone here, which is always a half step away from our starting position. Lydian has a very similar feeling, though now it feels like there are two leading tones due to our raised fourth. This creates a rising feeling since the fifth note in a typical scale kind of acts like an anchor point for the rest of the scale. Now, if Lydian feels like it has two leading tones, Mixolydian seemingly takes away both of those. The flat 7 makes the mode sound rounded, as if it's not particularly leading to anything. Very similarly, Dorian adds a flat 3, which still retains the rounded sound but acts almost like a minor version of Mixolydian, being a bit darker. Both of these modes are extremely popular in folk music, as the rounded sound lends itself to utilizing the whole scale, making it easier to create jigs and fun melodies. Aeolian is just the natural minor scale. Natural refers to how it naturally appears in relation to our major scale, just like the rest of the modes. It's distinctly sad and emotional. It feels as though the scale is descending rather than ascending, giving a more downtrodden sound. Phrygian is a bit darker, providing a more intense feeling. Surprisingly, you're likely familiar with this mode as well, as any media that revolves around Egypt, the pyramids, sand, or anything of the sorts will likely use this mode, albeit in a stereotypical fashion. Now, if Phrygian is intense, Locrian is simply evil. Unlike every other mode previously mentioned, Locrian simply is unbalanced, just due to how the notes are positioned. It's the only scale with a diminished fifth interval from the root of the mode, which is usually an indicator that there is a lack of stability in this scale. That being said, this mode isn't without its uses, most notably in metal music. All the modes I just mentioned naturally occur within our major scale, which is the most common in our modern understanding of modes. That all to say, there are other scales that can be used that are built on different whole step, half step relationships. I'd mentioned that Aeolian mode is the naturally occurring minor scale. There are other scales though, such as the harmonic minor scale, which alters the minor scale to provide more functionality when writing in its key. Similar to this is the melodic minor scale, which alters itself based on which direction your melody is going. As the name implies, this provides a melodic feeling. There are also weird amalgamations of scales, such as the Lydian Mixolydian mode, or Lydian dominant, which creates a Frankenstein of a scale that gives a bit more tension to our melodies. These are just a few examples of modes that don't naturally occur within our major scale. In reality, you can create any combination of intervals and consider it a mode. Now that you're familiar with modes, let's discuss their use. Primarily, it's a writing tool. It has been used historically as a way to base songs in good-sounding scales to create interesting melodies and harmonies. There is another more modern use for modes, however. Modes are made to be integral for improvisation. When you see a C dominant 7 chord, it makes a bunch of sense to play a C Mixolydian scale over it since it has the same notes in the chord. It just works. Now, opinion alert, this way of improvisation is kinda limiting.
What?
No, all right. I know that sounds bad.
Just think about it though. If we treat each chord as an individual set of notes that are separated from its context, then our solos will become non-substantive. I'm not saying they're not useful. Sometimes it's fun to just rip these modes over chords like it's nothing. But when you remove your musical ideas from any sort of functional purpose for whole solos, it sounds boring. Just consider that a warning though. If you don't heed my warning, I will find you and convince you otherwise. But yeah, that's modes, yeah! They're super cool. I don't really have anything else to say. Thanks for watching!